Back to the Pitch Side podcast and episode 94 of the show. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these podcast episodes and other content on the channel. Follow us on social media, Side PSP on Twitter and Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. And I'm on Spotify, Google Podcasts, any other platform if you wanted to listen, of course. And join us some more. You're welcome. Before we go to the Champions League and talk about what happened on Wednesday, let's go to our scarce midweek football action, and we start from the Premier League, of course. And Man City bounced right away after the derby loss against Man United and thrashed Southampton 5-2. This was a game that I think it was pretty unbalanced, by the way. Like, City had the complete and utter advantage in it. However, there was some couple of, moments. Obviously, the two goals, given the penalty away, not exactly being 100% secure whenever Southampton had the ball, which was, not exactly the biggest portion of the game. 5-2 is the result. De Bruyne with a couple of goals, Mahrez with a couple of beauties, I think, deservedly one of the best players, probably man of the match in my opinion. And Gundogan with the fifth goal. Che Adams and James Ward-Prowse came on with the goods for Southampton, so it was it wasn't a complete rout in terms of the difference of the goals, but it's 5-2, so definitely it counts as a rout. Anyway, Man City now keep marching on towards the title, and definitely they're going to be winning, probably, but the next couple of, fixtures, probably they will get the title soon enough into their hand. Deserved champions, I think. The turnaround that they make since the turn of the year was incredible. In Spain, Atletico Madrid managed to defeat Athletic Bilbao and made the comeback from 1-0 down to 2-1 up. Iker Muniain opened the scoring for Athletic Bilbao in the 21st minute. Marcos Llorente equalised before half-time, a crucial moment to equalise for Atletico Madrid, and Luis Suarez on the other side of the half scored from the penalty spot. 2-1 it is for Atletico Madrid, and the 6-point lead on the top of the table is restored for them now, fully on par with Barcelona and Real Madrid. 6-point lead, and it looks harder and harder, and if Atletico Madrid picking the momentum once again, it's going to be almost impossible for Real Madrid and Barcelona to catch up to them. There's a lot of catching up they need to do, I think, before they can claim themselves anywhere close to a title. In the Bundesliga, Arminia Bielefeld one man down in the middle of the second half. They lose 2-0 to Werder Bremen, of course, deserved winners, I think. Werder Bremen, at least for the second half performance. Bielefeld, had a decent game overall, but definitely after the red card, it wasn't the same. 2 goals coming in from Josh Sargent, the American striker, and Kevin Morvold in the 75th minute. Werder Bremen now, with this victory, stay actually in the 12th place, but improve their points tally to 30 points. Now into the Champions League, and of course what happened on Wednesday. The two games that took place, and Liverpool, PSG join Porto and Borussia Dortmund in the quarterfinal officially, after Liverpool, of course, renewed their vows with the victory against Leipzig 2-0 and Paris Saint-Germain drawn against Barcelona 1-1. And let's start from the game in the Ferenc Puskás Arena again. It was played there for the second leg, of course, between Liverpool and RB Leipzig. And this was a copycat, I think, of the first game that they had in the same stadium. Literally nothing changed aside from the fact that Liverpool played with the red kit. Like, seriously, you could look at that game, but however, I think one of the most major transformation was the fact that they brought Fabinho back into the centre of the park. That was one of the most important things Liverpool ever done, and I think this was a risk that paid off for Jurgen Klopp, because he could have easily kept Fabinho in the centre-half position and played him alongside Kabak because he did that, or play him alongside Williams because he did that, or play him alongside Nathaniel Phillips because he did that as well. So, he could have risked that. But definitely, the fact that he brought Fabinho back into the midfield where he belongs, not just improved Fabinho, but also improved another player that people seem to be piling on with criticism this season. It's Thiago. It improved Thiago a lot. It allowed him to go forward a lot. It allowed him to not really concern himself with the battles at the centre of the park, not giving away stupid fouls a lot like he used to do, really, when Fabinho wasn't there in the midfield to protect him. So with Fabinho providing the cover, it was, I think, an easy game for Liverpool to manage and to take care of. And certainly, to neutralize Leipzig's midfield threat. And with the absence of Angelino as well, like they lacked a lot of pace down that left-hand side. I'm not saying that Nkunku doesn't have pace, but they lacked in terms of extra pace, because usually they would have both those players on the left-hand side. They would have Angelino supporting Nkunku, and Nkunku would cut inside and run in the spaces. But Nkunku was played as a wing-back, so he was forced to play a little bit wider, and his job was to pull crosses inside the box. Not his best suit, although he pulled a couple of nice ones towards the end, but that's not exactly the best suit to use someone like Christopher Nkunku. I mean, he needs to go one-on-one with defenders, he needs to run into spaces and all of that. However, I mean, credit also to Liverpool's midfield, really did a good job, and again, one change made so many positives appear in that side. Like, one change completely transformed the way Liverpool gone. Like, now this is going to be the blueprint for the rest of the games in the league. With Fabinho back, Ozan Kabak, I think, got through his fitness issues and to start the game. So I think now Ozan Kabak could get some starts. He's shown a bit of improvement, because people have been harsh on him after his performance against Leicester. He's shown improvements, which is good. And with, probably a soon return for someone like Matip, Gomez, Van Dijk. I mean, if you're going to keep Kabak and you're going to partner him with Van Dijk, that's probably going to be the best course of action for the next season. Now, I think the battle for Liverpool now is to win the top four, which looks really, really hard. But definitely not the most impossible of tasks anyway. Back to the game. As I mentioned earlier, a copycat of the first game, and in literally the same scenario, but with inverse sort of rules. Mo Salah and Sadio Mane score quick fire double to put Liverpool through on Leipzig. And by the way, I was surprised. I was perplexed with the way Leipzig approached this game. Like, I don't know what Nagelsmann was thinking exactly, but why he didn't start with someone like Soloth since the beginning? Like, I know this thing, I mean, could not be acceptable, understandable for some people, but he should have started with Soloth. He's physical, he could take on these two inexperienced centre-halves. Like, Liverpool played with Nathaniel Phillips and Ozan Kabak. Like, those two centre-halves, they couldn't be any greener in terms of the Champions League, because Nathaniel Phillips barely has one match in the Champions League, Kabak as well has the same, so it's not exactly like they're experienced or like Maldini and Nesta at their prime. So you put Soloth in there, someone physical, and then you whip those crosses in from Danny Olmo, from Nkunku outside the box, from Emil Forsberg. I mean, obviously the fact that they, playing a 5-4-1 almost doesn't really help. And again, with Nkunku being a left wing back, pulled too wide, I think, he didn't have a lot of space. And, I talked about it yesterday, but I never imagined Nagelsmann would actually do it. He played the same high line, and he played the same squeezed line in the middle that he did in the first game, and that was costly again. And the goals came in from the same action again, because it is same sort of actions again, with Leipzig caught high, Salah running into space, Mane running into space, and then you have Origi running into space for the second goal, and with the cross, beautiful cross to Mane. And, Leipzig's way of dealing with crosses and dealing with, sort of the spaces behind them, like, it looks like when Leipzig get caught or you find spaces behind them, they don't recover, like, they don't recuperate those spaces, they just leave you in those spaces. And they don't care, like, seriously, they don't care absolutely whatsoever what are the spaces, what they're going to be doing with them. And, they just get lost in some way, and they collapse when you find space behind them. I mean, it was surprising, but considering the results and considering the way Nagelsmann plays, it's never going to be surprising. In the end, Liverpool bounced on the mistakes again of their opponents, and they warned them in the first half, by the way, of those spaces in terms of actions. They had opportunities in the first half to kill the game dead. They left it in the second half. Soloth, missed the big chance hitting the crossbar in the second half. Probably that could have turned things around. But then Liverpool managed to score 2 goals, go to the quarter-final of the Champions League, and at least a bit of good news in the end of the tunnel, because they were set for failure, really, with the form that they've been in the league at the moment. Now, it's just the task that's getting hard now for Jurgen Klopp is to replicate that form in the league, which is something almost looks entirely impossible considering how things are going now, to replicate that form, to try and get the best European position that they can, because that's, I think, what they're trying to aim at, and try to look for a better performance in the next couple of games in the Premier League. Congratulations for Liverpool and for Leipzig. Good luck, and we'll see you in the Bundesliga, and we'll see you next season as far as the Champions League is concerned. And in Paris, as it was expected, I think nobody really gave Barcelona a chance before the game, at the very least, I would say, to qualify or to make the remontada against Paris Saint-Germain away from home. But I think they did well enough to at least give you the impression that they were there and they had the opportunities. Barcelona, by the way, they were the better side by a mile on this game. I don't know how they couldn't perform this way in the first leg, how they couldn't perform this way in the overall the season. This is, despite the result, despite the exit, is the best game Barcelona played all season. Like, I don't know whether it's because PSG started the game really afraid of Barcelona, they had sort of this doubt in their mind that Barcelona could make a comeback. They had maybe flashbacks, something haunts them. Certainly the likes of Paredes, Verratti, Gay, Kurzawa, Marquinhos, Kimpembe, Navas, all been there for the comebacks of last, at least the recent ones against Manchester United in the Champions League, and then you have also, they've been there for the campaign last season and all of that. None of them, I assume, probably only Verratti was in the 2017 version of the remontada, so probably, they didn't have a lot of reasons to be afraid of Barcelona, but Boston, I think, sort of started really strong and never let off. Only the finishing let them down in that one. The fact that Dembele missed a lot of opportunities, Messi missed a couple as well, there was, Griezmann with opportunities, couldn't score. It was certainly, the best game Barcelona played all season, in my opinion. But when Mbappe scored the penalty, and it was a penalty, by the way, Longley tripped him, the rules of the game. Those are the rules of the game, right? Mbappe gets the penalty, scores the penalty. It's 1-0 for PSG in half an hour at Paris, and no way for Barcelona to come back again. But when Messi scored the equaliser, and what a goal that was, by the way, and, talk about beautiful things, Messi's goal against Navas, it's supreme. Navas, I think, had the best view of it on the pitch, seeing the ball, travel across his top corner. What a beautiful shot from an outrageous range from Messi. You thought Messi could not score those anymore, but, he did, and he could score those still. That left foot never dies for him. They score that, and you had this shrink amount of hope that Barcelona are going to make a comeback. Then you have the penalty late on in the first half, and you think, okay, this is going to be it for Barcelona, and this is going to be probably the turnaround. If Messi scored the second goal from that spot, from the penalty spot, how different would have been that game? Seriously, it would have been different. Some serious doubt would have been cast over the minds of PSG, and probably they would be afraid of the game, and they would enter the second half probably well within their rights to be afraid, because Barcelona will have nothing to lose pretty much when they are 2-1 up. They will say, we go for it, we either score goals, we either make the comeback, or we're going to be, get caught on the counter. Mbappe and Icardi and Di Maria and Draxler are going to be catching us on counters and going to be scoring other goals in our net. So that's it. But Messi misses. Navas saves it. It goes over the crossbar. And, I think that depleted. And the Barca fans, I think, were really hopeful, crossing the fingers for the penalty to be scored. And if that penalty was scored, probably it would have been a different story, maybe. It would have given Barca a little bit more momentum heading into the second half. But once the penalty was missed, it was deflated. The Barcelona fan base was deflated, and rightfully so, because they knew that, at 1-1, it's almost impossible to score 3 goals in the second half against PSG, who didn't defend really well. I mean, let's be fair, they didn't defend really well. I mean, Navas, I think, was the hero of the hour, the man of the match, in my opinion. He pulled off a couple of incredible saves. Busquets from the corner in the second half as well. Dembele had a couple of opportunities. Maybe one of the most underwhelming players yesterday was Dembele, who missed a lot of opportunities to give his side the lead. Also, I mean, not just missing opportunities, but being in a situation where he doesn't make the right decision, doesn't know where to pass, when to shoot, when to dribble. I mean, Ousmane Dembele is a player when focused. When focused, he's one of the best players in the world, and that is no exaggeration. But mostly, he has been out of focus. He loses his touch with the reality somehow on the pitch. He doesn't really care about what happens on the field, and he ends up not making the right decision. He ends up making all the wrong decisions in the world, and you know, there's really no way that there's really no way that Barcelona could have made a remontada when you have someone like Ousmane Dembele missing those opportunities and not making the right decision. So for Barcelona, it is another exit from the European stage, another year where they exit basically with the bad scoreline, because the 4-1 of the Camp Nou is not going to be forgettable anytime soon. This 1-1 draw is not going to be wiping it off the face of the earth. And I think they still have the Copa del Rey. They had the new president. They have the new president now. They could build a new project for next season, for the seasons afterwards, and that would be nice. And we'll see how Barcelona are going to be reacting to this in the league as well. Could they go on now to win the league and the cup? I mean, if from this position they go on to win a double in Spain, I'm not going to be discussing anything. I'm not debating anything. I really just, take my hat off for Barca and, show them all the respect in the world, and they deserve all the respect in the world, usually, whether they win doubles or they don't win the doubles anyway. Messi, still the best man on the pitch, despite the fact that, his team was eliminated and the draw and all of that, but he's still the best player on the pitch. I mean, gold just never... I mean, the gold always shines. The gold always shines. It doesn't really, it doesn't really change the fact that he's one of the GOATs in the game. Congratulations for PSG and Liverpool, and, hard luck for Barcelona and Leipzig in the next few editions of the Champions League, hopefully. But what you do with the Champions League when you have a bigger and much better competition with all of its matches crammed in one day on Thursday? I'm talking about the Europa League, of course, and if you didn't get it, that's sarcastic, because definitely the Europa League isn't bigger than the Champions League, but it has one tie in it that is definitely rivals the Champions League, and should be in a proper time in the Champions League, but we'll get to that in the meantime. Let's go through what's going to be happening in the Europa League on Thursday. Ajax are going to be hosting Young Boys, Dynamo Kiev are going to be hosting Villarreal, Slavia Praga are going to be hosting Rangers, AS Roma, Shakhtar Donetsk, Granada host Molde, Olympiacos Piraeus host Arsenal, and Dinamo Zagreb travel to face Tottenham in London. And of course, the big tie that I'm talking about is Manchester United versus AC Milan. This is a proper Champions League tie, escaping from its original habitat and going to live in the Europa League. And since the draw was announced, I mean, certainly I haven't been this interested about the Europa League in a while. The Europa League is a competition that seriously doesn't get better, only gets better since the round of 16, or the round of 32 at least, when you get those Europa League, when you get to Champions League dropping teams, competing, being involved in the mix, like Man United are this season, dropping from the Champions League to the Europa League. Maybe, I don't know first how to really feel about this game, because in terms of the names, Man United and AC Milan, this is definitely a Champions League final waiting to happen. And, obviously with the memories of the 2007 game and, the Kaka scoring goals and letting Evra and Nemanja basically ram each other in the head and whatever, and scoring the goals. This brings so much memories for me. This was one of the first big ties that I opened my eyes to in the world of football, basically. Man United versus AC Milan in the Champions League. And it's happening in an environment in the Europa League where, obviously all eyes are going to be on that game because of the namesake. But certainly it feels a little bit devalued, and I'm not going to say underwhelming, but a little bit devalued just because it's played in the Europa League anyway. Man United's form in the league at the moment, and with the latest victory against Man City, probably pushes them to be a little bit favourite over AC Milan, who had a decent season. I mean, AC Milan had a very, very decent season. I think relatively still in the title picture, depending on what's going to happen in the next couple of fixtures in the league, but still in the title picture in Serie A. I mean, the last victory against Verona was without Ibrahimovic, without Ben Nasser, without Mandzukic, and which is interesting to see for them. What is going to be happening? They're also going to be missing Çalhanoğlu as well. Rebic, Mandzukic, Ben Nasser is going to be injured. Ibrahimovic is not there as well. So it's quite the first team players missing from that lineup there in Man United. On the other side, it's Marcus Rashford, De Gea, Van de Beek, Pogba, Juan Mata, and of course long-term injuries for Phil Jones. That is what's going to be missing from Manchester United. Now, are Man United slightly better form than Milan? Yes, I would argue yes. But are they favourites to go through both legs? I don't really think so. Like, maybe on one leg, I would favour Man United because they could play the counter-attack, they could set themselves to just sit deep and bounce on the counter, and AC Milan, really, whatever midfield is going to be playing, without Ben Nasser, is not going to be the same. It's not going to be that, it's going to be that dynamic. Because I watched a couple of games for AC Milan with, Tonali and Kessié, and Tonali and Swalihomete, or Kessié and Swalihomete, and they're not exactly dynamic. Like, Tonali sometimes gets too static on the pitch. He doesn't really have this energy in him to high press or to move diagonally across in front of the defenders. He cannot be a destroyer, he cannot be a back four and just, sit in front of them and just whip balls forward and just intercept the second balls. As far as, and also, there's a bit of, slow nature in the centre of the park for Milan, for the centre of the defence as well. So it probably needs to be, Stefano Pioli needs to intricately plan his game against Man United, because if it's going to be an attack versus counter-attack kind of game, I don't think that AC Milan had a big chance of going through. Even without Rashford in, there's still so much pace in them. They still have the likes of Martial, they still have the likes of Greenwood, they still have the likes of Daniel James, who could bounce on them. They have a wily old veteran in Cavani who could bounce on any mistake in the centre of the park and centre of the defence as well. So it needs to be meticulously planned from Stefano Pioli in order to get the game under control if he wants to get through the first leg away from home in the Old Trafford with the slightest of damages before going back to Milan next week. So, as far as Man United are concerned, I don't know. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sometimes surprises us, right? Because he changes sometimes. Sometimes he changes his shape, and as Stefano Pioli doesn't change it, I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is more than willing to change his shape in order to get the best result he can. And I think against Milan, I don't think he's going to risk a lot of... he's not going to risk a lot of changes, not a lot of changes to his shape, certainly, but he will try and be as compact as he can. Maybe try to replicate something what he did in the derby, but I really doubt it, because AC Milan, as good of a team as they can be, even with those names that I mentioned injured for them being on the pitch, I don't think that they're still quite as good as Man City, not even in the 50%, 60% of their level. So I think Man United should be favourites, should have the advantage overall in the game, and should really, feel like a proper threat in this game for AC Milan. They should take the game by the scruff of the neck if they want to get through, and they want to make it quick and painless, because AC Milan want to open themselves up, and probably Man United are going to take advantage just like they did against Real Sociedad. But definitely, it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a great game to watch. I am absolutely thrilled in anticipation for that one. As for the rest of the ties, really, as I mentioned, Olympiacos Piraeus hosting Arsenal with, haunting memories of last season's same round, really, where Olympiacos eliminated Arsenal, and that was in the Emirates in the last game that had crowd for Arsenal, and what a memory that is. Granada, of course, after eliminated Napoli, host Molde. Tottenham continuing in pretty much an easy route in the Europa League so far, defeating Wolfsburger in the last round, back and forth really, with thrashing them. And Dinamo Zagreb, I think, could be another easy target for them. Ajax Amsterdam host the Young Boys. Slavia Praha host Steven Gerrard's Rangers, who just won the league in Scotland, so we'll see how that's going to be affecting them in the Europa League. It's a really, really strange and tricky trip for them. And AS Roma host another side that dropped from the Champions League in Shakhtar Donetsk, with Dynamo Kiev hosting Villarreal. That's it for the Europa League in the round of 16, and we'll see how the first leg is going to be panning on tonight's matches. That's it from me for this episode. I'm your boy, the HID of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these podcast episodes and the match recaps. Follow us on social media site PSP on Twitter, PSP on Instagram, and listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.